Warning, this video is for educational purposes only and is not intended as medical advice. The information presented here should not replace consultation with qualified healthcare professionals. Picture this, a glass of milk sitting on a kitchen counter. To some people, it's just milk. But what if I were to tell you that this simple glass represents one of the most dramatic food transformations in human history?
Raw milk that was sold from a farm in Central Florida has made 21 people sick.
Tonight, the Florida Department of Health is warning people against the hazards of drinking raw, unpasteurized milk.
Pasteurized milk is the only safe option.
For over 10,000 years, humans thrived on raw dairy. Ancient civilizations built empires fueled by fermented mare's milk. Viking warriors carried raw butter on long voyages. Traditional cultures from the Maasai to the Swiss mountain dwellers credited their strength and longevity to fresh, unprocessed dairy. Then, in less than a century, everything changed. Today, that same food ancestors treasured is illegal to buy in most states. It's been labeled dangerous, primitive, even deadly. Meanwhile, millions of people who once tolerated dairy perfectly now suffer from lactose intolerance, milk allergies, and chronic inflammation. But here's the question nobody's really asking. What if the problem isn't milk itself, but what we've done to it? What if the very improvements we made to make milk safer actually made it less compatible with human biology? What if, in our rush to industrialize and sanitize, we broke something that worked perfectly for millennia? This isn't just raw versus pasteurized milk. This is about understanding how we transformed a living food into a processed commodity and what we lost in the process. Because the implications go far beyond your morning cereal. They touch on everything from gut health to food freedom, from environmental sustainability to the future of agriculture itself. So let's dive deep, not into fear-mongering or food dogma, but into the science, the history, and the real-world consequences of the choices we've made about one of humanity's oldest foods. To understand why we process milk, we need to go back to the late 1800s. Raw milk wasn't the problem, the conditions were. As cities exploded during the Industrial Revolution, dairy operations moved from countryside farms into urban environments. Cows were crammed in the basement stalls, fed distillery waste, and kept in conditions that would horrify modern farmers. These swill dairies produced milk that was genuinely dangerous. Enter Louis Pasteur's heat treatment process, originally developed for wine and beer. By 1895, it was being applied to milk as an emergency solution to urban dairy disasters. But here's what's crucial to understand. Pasteurization was never about making inherently dangerous food safe. It was about making dangerously processed food sellable. The tragedy is that instead of fixing the root cause, poor animal husbandry and unsanitary conditions, the industry chose to treat the symptom with heat processing. This set a precedent that continues today. When industrial food production creates problems, we handle them with more processing, not better practices. Modern research supports this distinction. A comprehensive 2020 study published in the Journal of Dairy Science analyzing safe raw milk production concluded that raw milk can be produced with a high level of hygiene and safety when proper farming practices are implemented. The key phrase, proper farming practices. Let's address the elephant in the room. Is pasteurized milk actually safer? The data might surprise you. In 2024, a Listeria outbreak was linked to pasteurized cheese products. In 2019, E. coli contamination occurred in pasteurized milk due to equipment failure. And in 2022, a salmonella outbreak was traced to pasteurized ice cream. Meanwhile, CDC foodborne illness statistics show that 46% of cases come from produce. Your salad is statistically more dangerous, 22% from meat and poultry, and only 10% from all dairy combined, both raw and pasteurized. According to the data analysis from the Raw Milk Institute, you're approximately 35,000 times more likely to get sick from other foods than from properly produced raw milk. A study published in Foodborne Pathogens and Disease found that the risk of illness from raw milk consumption is extremely low when proper production practices are followed. But here's what's really telling. Most raw milk illnesses reported by the CDC come from illegal black market sources or farms with poor sanitation practices, not from licensed, inspected dairy operations. The safety narrative has been weaponized to justify an industrial system that prioritizes shelf life and profit margins over nutritional integrity. Modern milk goes through multiple processing steps that fundamentally alter its biological structure. Homogenization mechanically destroys the milk-fat globule membrane, or MFGM, a complex structure that supports brain development and cognitive function, regulates glucose metabolism, maintains gut barrier integrity, and provides antimicrobial protection. Research published in the International Dairy Journal demonstrates that homogenization significantly alters the structure and composition of MFGM, reducing its bioactive properties. When homogenization breaks these natural fat globules, they're coated with artificial proteins that lack MFGM's biological benefits. The result? A product that looks like milk but functions differently in your body. Heat treatment causes protein denaturation and racemization, converting beneficial L-amino acids to less usable D forms. A study in the Journal of Agriculture and Food Chemistry showed that pasteurization significantly increases protein glycation and the formation of advanced glycation end products, AGEs, which are linked to chronic inflammation. It also triggers fat oxidation, creating inflammatory compounds, destroys heat-sensitive vitamins and enzymes, and forms these inflammatory AGEs. This isn't just theoretical. These changes have measurable impacts on how your body processes and responds to dairy. Walk down any grocery aisle and you'll see vitamin A and D added on milk cartons. Sounds healthy, right? Let's look a little deeper. The fortification process requires synthetic emulsifiers like polysorbate 80, BHT, and mono and diglycerides. It also needs cheap seed oil carriers such as soybean, corn, canola, or cottonseed oil, plus chemical stabilizers to prevent separation. Research published in Nature shows that emulsifiers like polysorbate 80 can disrupt the gut microbiome and promote inflammatory bowel disease. These additives are linked to gut microbiome disruption, increased intestinal permeability or leaky gut, endocrine system interference, and chronic inflammatory responses. Here's the hidden truth. These chemicals don't appear on labels because they're considered processing aids rather than ingredients. You're consuming industrial additives without knowing it. Even worse, synthetic vitamins degrade rapidly. A study published in the Journal of Dairy Science showed that fortified milk can lose over 50% of its vitamin A content within 48 hours under LED lighting, meaning much of the added nutrition is gone before you drink it. Raw milk isn't just unprocessed milk. It's a complex, living ecosystem that science is just beginning to understand. It contains bioactive enzymes like lipase, which pre-digests fats for easier absorption, lactase, which helps break down lactose and explains why many lactose-intolerant people tolerate raw milk, and alkaline phosphatase, which supports bone health and cellular function. A study published in Applied and Environmental Microbiology found that raw milk contains diverse beneficial microorganisms, including lactobacillus species that colonize in the gut, the phytobacterium strains that support immune function, and other bacterial communities that act as natural probiotics. The immune-supporting compounds are remarkable. Lactoferrin, called its miracle molecule for its antimicrobial, anti-inflammatory, and immune-modulating properties, is 90% destroyed by pasteurization, according to research published in the International Journal of Food Microbiology. Research in the Journal of Nutritional Biochemistry showed that immunoglobulins provide antibodies for passive immunity, while cytokines like TGF-beta regulate immune responses and gut barrier function. Raw milk contains anti-inflammatory factors too. Studies show that CD14 neutralizes bacterial endotoxins, lactoferrin supports gut lining repair, and various glycoproteins modulate inflammatory responses. This biology complexity can't be replicated through fortification or supplementation. It's the difference between a living food and a processed commodity. Emerging research reveals profound differences on how raw versus pasteurized dairy affects digestive and immune health. For digestion, raw milk bacteria increase endogenous lactase production, intact enzymes pre-digest proteins and fats, and natural probiotics support beneficial gut bacteria. A landmark study published in the Journal of Allergy and Clinical Immunology found that children consuming raw milk show 50% lower rates of asthma and allergies, reduced incidence of eczema and respiratory infections, and enhanced immune system development and regulation. This was a part of a large-scale Parsifal study involving over 14,000 children across Europe. Another study published in Clinical and Experimental Allergy confirmed these findings, showing that raw milk consumption in early life was associated with significantly reduced asthma and atopy. Real-world evidence backs this up. A survey published in Food and Chemical Toxicology found that over 1/3 of raw milk consumers experienced digestive discomfort from pasteurized milk, but had no issue with raw milk from the same farms. Research published in Applied and Environmental Microbiology showed that after 12 weeks of consuming raw dairy products, subjects had significantly higher levels of lactobacilli in their gut microbiome and increased short-chain fatty acid production, documenting improvements in microbiome composition and function. The mechanism? Raw milk's living bacterial cultures and intact enzymes work synergistically together with your digestive system, while pasteurized milk requires your body to do all the work with fewer tools. Perhaps the most fascinating thing about raw dairy is what we've lost through the processing. Compounds that science has barely begun to understand. The Wolzen factor, also called the anti-stiffness factor, was discovered in the 1930s by Dr. Rosalind Wolzen. Her research, published in the American Journal of Psychology, showed that this heat-sensitive compound prevents abnormal calcium deposits in joints and arteries, protects against arthritis and arterial calcification, supports cardiovascular and joint health, and exists only in raw dairy fats. Other heat-sensitive bioactives include folate-binding proteins that enhance B vitamin absorption, orotic acid for cellular energy production, conjugated linoleic acid, or CLA in its most bioactive form, and various peptides with antimicrobial and immune-supporting properties. Research published in the Journal of Dairy Science confirms that many of these bioactive compounds are significantly reduced or destroyed during pasteurization. These compounds represent thousands of years of evolution between humans and dairy animals. They can't be synthesized or added back after processing. Choosing raw dairy isn't just about personal health, it's about supporting a fundamentally different food system. Regenerative dairy practices include rotational grazing that builds soil health, biodiversity enhancement through diverse pasture management, carbon sequestration through proper land management, and ethical animal treatment that allows natural behaviors. Research published in the agriculture system shows that well-management grazing systems can sequester significant amounts of carbon while improving soil health and biodiversity. The economic impact is significant. Raw dairy supports small and medium-sized family farms, keeps food dollars in local communities, provides farmers with fair compensation for quality, and reduces dependence on industrial agriculture. Environmental benefits include lower carbon footprint through reduced processing and transportation, improved watershed management, enhanced wildlife habitat, and reduce reliance on synthetic inputs. A study in the Journal of Sustainable Agriculture found that small-scale, pasture-based dairy operations often exceed organic standards in terms of animal welfare and environmental impact. Many small-scale raw dairy farmers exceed organic standards but can't afford certification costs. Their processes often represent the gold standard of sustainable agriculture. The raw milk debate isn't really about safety, it's about control. Industrial dairy has legitimate concern. Raw milk represents decentralized food production. Direct farmer-to-consumer sales bypass industrial distribution. Quality raw milk commands premium prices, and consumer education threatens commodity dairy markets. We're seeing regulatory capture, where many food safety officials have ties to industrial dairy. Regulations favor large-scale operations over small farms. Safety standards designed for industrial conditions get applied to artisanal producers, and there's limited research funding for raw dairy benefits. A policy analysis published in the Journal of Public Health Policy examined how food safety regulations often favor industrial producers over small-scale operations, despite evidence that properly managed small farms can achieve superior safety outcomes. The bigger picture is this: every food freedom we surrender makes us more dependent on industrial systems that prioritizes profit over nutrition, convenience over quality, and control over choice. This isn't about demonizing pasteurized milk or claiming raw milk is perfect for everyone. This is about understanding what we've gained and lost through industrialization. Here are the key takeaways. Pasteurization solved industrial problems, not inherent food safety issues. Processing ultimately alters milk's biological structure and function. Raw milk from clean, well-managed farms represents a different food entirely. And food choices have implications beyond personal health. If you choose to explore raw dairy, please check with your doctor first and ensure to source from farms that are reputable, pasture-based, and are transparent about their practices. Visit the farm, meet the farmers, see the conditions, start slowly, listen to your body, and understand that not all raw milk is created equal. But here's the bigger question. In the search for safety and convenience, what other foods have we transformed beyond recognition? What wisdom have we lost in our rush to industrialize? The future of food isn't about returning to the past. It's about combining traditional wisdom with modern knowledge to create systems that nourish both people and planet. Your food choices are votes for the kind of world you want to live in. Thanks for watching.